Hello guys, and welcome back to another cold episode. On today's episode, we are talking about the best decks to climb post-Adagnister pack in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. And yeah, we're just gonna jump right into this. This is a tier list from like a TCG tier list, basically, and also say hi to chat. But yeah, I just put the decks that we don't have in tier 0 because it's funny. But yeah, we're just gonna go over mostly the new stuff. We're getting Adagnister, we're Genesis, we're getting Gem Knights. That's kind of it. Also, this is made before the pack actually comes out, so if we get Eclipse Twin, which is a chance, Ryzeal will probably be slightly higher. But yeah, we're just gonna go through this and just discuss it. Black Tiger Master's here. Also, MSD is in here, which it technically doesn't have an archetype as of yet. Anyway, this deck doesn't exist. It's not real. It can't hurt you. To be fair, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, these are gonna bug me. I hate when people do this. It bothers me immensely when people go like tier 1, tier 1.5, and then just have like Rogue. Or more specifically, it bothers me when like they do like tier 1, tier 1.5, tier 2, and there's like no real good reason to have a tier in tier 1.5. I don't know why so many people... This is something that like Yu-Gi-Oh! Players have just done. They're just like, it's tier 1.5. And I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? There are very, very few metas where that is actually the case. Where it's like, oh, this deck is in a tier of its own, but not tier 1. Or something like that. It's like, what? Anyway, that's all. Moving on. What was I talking about? Ancient Gear. Ancient Gear is still not terrible because it's a blind second deck, and honestly, in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, having the opportunity to go blind second is pretty strong. And you can make your entire board basically not care. So, it does work, especially in a best of one. Goaty, not very good. Let's be honest with ourselves. Ascent, as much as I wish this deck was good, it's not. Let's not act like it is. Same thing with Phantom Knight, same thing with Blackwing. Okay, Blue Eyes is Rogue at this point, let's be honest. Wait. Yeah, it's... I don't know, Blue Eyes isn't, like, terrible, except for the fact that it loses to the 2 matchups that actually matter currently. And it doesn't really gain anything from the new pack. In fact, it just loses things from the new pack. Because Maliss just gets stronger, which makes it way worse. Smile. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right, it's Rogue. The problem is that it has such terrible matchups right now. That is, like, legitimately the biggest issue. Like, it's not a terrible deck. It beats, like, a ton of stuff below the top 2 decks. But its top 2 deck matchups are abysmal. They're just terrible, right? So, can't really say that it's good. At least in my mind. Branded. Branded's also Rogue. I don't know what else to tell you. Don't play Branded in Ranked. It's not very good. Bestial or Bestial Control is just not really worth it. It doesn't really do anything. Imagine banishing a Maliss monster. Centurion's not great, but it's not terrible. Chimera is pretty terrible. Mathmech, okay. I'm also going to put Adagnister in this same category. Why did we use this picture for Chris Ron, by the way? Cybers right now is in a state where if you're not playing Maliss, why are you playing Cybers? Smile. That's pretty much it. Right? So as much as I want to be like, these are Yugi Boomer takes, they're technically not, because they're still not that bad. But again, why? Why would you be playing them? Unban the Hulk? No. Oh, sorry. Crystron's actually not bad. Crystron actually doesn't have a terrible matchup into Maliss. And it's still pretty decent going first. It does lose to, like, Lancia and stuff like that, which people might be a little bit more willing to play, due to the fact that Maliss is getting a buff. However, Maliss also has additional ways now that they can play around Lancia due to the added Mister cards, so maybe we'll see a decrease of Lancia. But overall, I do think that Crystron just has a very, very strong end board and has the capability of beating both Ryzeal and Maliss, and isn't necessarily terrible into either of them. So, yeah, there's that. Sidra is just not really worth it. Same thing with Dark Magician. Same thing with this one. This one loses to itself more than it loses to anything else. Same thing with literally all of these decks. What the hell? Dinomorphia is still stun. It is stun. So, yeah, sometimes you do just win the game by flipping up a card that says no to the opponent's anything. That's pretty much it. Dragon Link's not terrible, but it's not great. The Bestials are pretty mid right now. Any Pendulum thing is just not it right now. That dies to like everything under the sun. That dies to everything under the sun. Live Twin is like really bad. Is Live Twin good? Hello, have a gorgeous day. You too, brother, sister, person. I don't care. Exodia, or more specifically, the Millennium Exodia stuff is still not very good. Even though it is stun, the main way you would like stun was with like banishing stuff, which just isn't enough right now. Yeah, Exosister exists. Fiendsmith actually still has plays. It's still very strong. Having the recursion of the Fiendsmith stuff is very nice. Desiree is still powerful. On top of that, DD Wave King Caesar and Apo are both very strong, which allow you the Fiendsmith, or like, which is what the Fiendsmith cards allow, which is just like good. So yeah, Flunder, in theory, Flunder is good. In practice, it's absolutely terrible. It's so bad, dude. What does Flunder do? Dies to being looked at the wrong way? True. For Hire is just not playable. Gem Knights, I think, could be interesting. I'm going to put them in tier 2. This may seem strange, but I think there is some merit, again, to playing a blind second Gem Knight strat. I might be coping. It's hard. It's also hard to say because of things like Maxi and what have you that exist. And it's a very different format from that of, like, the TCG, and maybe people will be prepared for like blind second strategies and stuff like that. But there is a chance that it's still capable of like competing and really being at the top. There's that. You know, I'm gonna put it at the top of Rogue. For the most part, these aren't ordered. These two are. These two are ordered. Goblins are very good. No, yeah, they're really terrible. If you're just playing Goblins, they're pretty bad. If you play them in like Memento, it's not terrible. Fiendsmith Engraver. I don't know what this is. I don't know why he's here. But, okay. You know what? Tier 0. Ice barriers are kind of terrible, right? Infernoids lose to themselves. Synchrons lose to themselves. Kashtira is, like, okay. Being able to, like, banish a card from the extra can be pretty nice with Unicorn. And to be fair, Unicorn is better just like splashed as an engine as opposed to playing actual Kashtira. It's not terrible. Is Primate Fiendsmith good? No. Not right now, I would say. It just doesn't do enough. It's not terrible as a concept, but counterpoint, Maliss. Fire King. No. Lab, okay, Lab feels very similar to that of, like, Dinomorphia, where it's like, I don't know, you could just, like, go up against Ryzeal and flip, Destructive Daruma Karma Cannon, and watch as their entire board just doesn't do shit. It's like, well, yeah, like, that could be the case. It could also do nothing. Ice Barriers are an engine in Mermail. No, they are not. They are an engine in Mermail, in which case only bad players play it because they need a way to automatically win the game, as opposed to actually playing out Yu-Gi-Oh! Like most Mermail players. well, playing out Yu-Gi-Oh! Lightsworn is really bad. Lunalight does not have its new support. Earth Machine is terrible. Madolche doesn't exist. Maliss is tier 1. Not tier 0. Tier 1. Now let me explain why for a second. I know a whole bunch of people are going to be like, oh, but they're getting, you know, just more cards. They're just going to be better because of the new Agnister stuff. And while that is absolutely true, the thing is, it's still a best of 1. And it's so incredibly difficult to be tier 0 in a best of 1. While, yes, it will be very strong, it's still beatable. Both going first and going second. And I know what you're saying, no it's not. If they go first, you just lose the game. There are cards called Maxi, Fuwalos, etc. that do actually even out the game for you and have the ability to more or less even out the game. While it's not very fun, that is something that you can do, right? But, while, yes, the Agnister cards are very nice, it also means that they are going to have some weaker matchups due to the fact that they are slotting in more engine as opposed to non-engine. And they're not going to be able to high roll as much with, like, non-engine, right? So, if you play, like, Snake Eye, for example, or something of that nature that just makes this turn 1 end board that auto-wins the game, there's just as much of a chance that you just auto-win, right? So, I don't think it's tier 0. I think it's definitely the best deck in the room, and nothing is going to compete with it in terms of... nothing else is going to be tier 1. But I do think it's not quite tier 0. Why is Memento shown twice? Where is Memento shown twice? What are you talking about? Oh, you're right. Akihiron and Anduich are on here. You are correct. I didn't even notice that. Because it's tier 0, baby. Anyway, we'll talk about Memento. Memento's pretty solid as well. Just like a decently solid option. It probably goes like this. Memento specifically has a very solid Ryziel matchup and a decent to okay matchup against Maliss. It's not terrible, but it's not, like, the greatest. It's the best, but number 1 operative, Mr. Nader, is on the case. Exactly. I'm investing in Lunalights? Don't do that. Manadium. As much as I want Melodious to be good, it's not. It's just not. It's not. Speaking of which, Mermail. Mermail is actually pretty good. Mermail is pretty good. Just kind of auto-wins going first. As I previously mentioned, right? It's like, hey, if you just get to go first and auto-win. But hot women? Brother, that's a sheep. Or a wolf or something. I don't know what they are. I think they're all like cats or something. That's a feline. That's not a woman. Anyway, speaking of. Mimighoul is maybe one of the worst decks I've ever seen. Holy crap, dude. Man, Mimighoul. Melodious bodies Ryziel going first, at least. Melodious also bodies Mermail. Or Maliss. Sorry. Not Mermail. Maliss. It's also pretty good against Maliss. You just bounce everything to the hand, and then they don't have link material. And then you're like, well, shit. And then you add back the Lancia that you used previously. This is a deck we don't have. Forgot about that. Monarchs technically don't have the new support, so they're terrible. Same with ABC. ABC doesn't have support. Infernoble, tier 0. Odd Eyes is not real. Trap decks are not real. As much as I love Argo Stars, they're not real. They can't hurt you. Rank 7 Turbo, or... No, what is this? That's not Rank 7 Turbo. That is Raid Raptor. Same thing. Ojama's Orchist. Man, where's my Orchist support, Konami? Where's my Orchist cards? Why are we missing the Orchists? It's fine. Memento is one of the best, yes. You can't change what I am. Gimmick Puppet is... I don't think it's tier 2. I think it just relies way too heavily on, like, going first. Granted, if it goes first, it's, like, okay. However, there's a lot more cards that do out it. You know, Nibiru, etc. Right? So, I don't necessarily think that it's, like, the end-all be-all, or that it just, like, auto-wins. So there's that. Prank Kid's not real. Punk is... Is Punk real? Punk's not real. Pearly. I really wish Pearly was real. Pearly's so fun to play against, and it's super fun to play, too. Yeah, Pearly's not real. The problem with Pearly is that Impulse exists, and is, like, the best hand trap in the game, and is also played in the best deck in the game. Yeah, imagine getting Impulsed. Imagine your cute little doggo just getting fucking Impulsed. It's like, no! Regenesis! Honestly, Regenesis does have merit due to the fact that Kashtira cards do exist, and you can play them with the Kashtira cards pretty effectively. Which means that with the Regenesis cards and with... Also, we're likely getting the full suite of Regenesis cards, because of course we are. So, I would imagine the Regenesis cards are at the very least capable of taking games and being competitive with a lot of these top decks. Mostly due to the fact that Unicorn is a card. Katos? Doggos. Rescue Ace. Fuck it. Rescue Ace is rogue. Rescue Ace is great. Trust. Ritual Beast loses to everything under the sun. Dude, I really wish Ritual Beast was good. I love Ritual Beast. It's terrible. Runic is pretty shit right now. If Runic Fountain was at 2, this deck would actually be playable. It would be, even with Maliss in the format, it would still not be terrible. Because, at the very least, you could, like, play Runic Stun, and then it doesn't matter if your opponent has a Maliss monster banished, if they just can't summon it, or can't do anything with it. So I can't. Impulse really kills the deck. Yep. Detonator! Look, he's gonna try. He's gonna do his damnedest to make sure that Maliss doesn't run away with everything. This really does come down to whether or not we get Eclipse Twins. If we get Eclipse Twins, it might be up there. Like, legitimately, it might be up there. With the new Heraldrics, adding additional ways to go into rank 4s more consistently, and having just additional guys, it's not terrible, right? However, it is dependent on Eclipse Twin, which hasn't been announced. And we don't know if it's actually in the game, etc. If we don't get Eclipse Twin, I think it's tier 2. And even if we get Eclipse Twin, it's probably still just tier 2. It's still probably not as good as Maliss. Unless Maliss receives some sort of limitation, but unlikely to happen. Sky Striker. Okay, so Sky Striker itself is terrible. Sky Striker, not a good deck. That being said, Tenpai Sky Striker is very good and is extremely competitive with pretty much every deck in the game due to the fact that it kind of ignores whatever you're doing and kills you. So it doesn't really matter what the metagame looks like, it matters what the deck itself looks like. And because it's a best of 1, even that doesn't necessarily matter, because as long as the combo is still playable, you still have the ability to just auto-win games and more or less ignore the opponent. Which is something. Snake Eyes. I'm actually going to put in tier 2. Probably at the bottom of tier 2, but still it is competitive. And, again, it actually does have the ability to just kind of auto-win going first. Now, granted, because it works similar to the myriad of other combo decks that are here, except for maybe, like, Memento and Fiendsmith, and I guess Tenpai, right? But, like, because it works similar to that of, like, Mermail and Ryzeal and Maliss and even Crystron to an extent, where it's like, oh, it really wants to go first, set up a combo, and prevent the opponent from, like, winning the game by just having more points of interaction. It doesn't really, like, you're probably not going to see it a ton, because why play this when you could play this, you know? That being said, I do think that it is very strong. Sprite! Sprite's pretty good. Sprite's not bad. Yeah, that's pretty much it. The fact that I can play around things like Fool Loss is also very advantageous to it, just due to the fact that, like, Starter allows you access to a negate, or multiple negates, or something else of that nature, without having to commit to the extra deck is pretty solid. You can also use, like, Elf to dodge things like Called By with, you know, if you activate Maxi. You can even bounce your own Maxi to your hand after, like, searching it with something like Mannequin Cat, which is something. It's highly inconsistent, but that is technically something you could do, which is pretty interesting. Hero. I want to put Hero in Rogue, but I'm actually not. I just don't. This is one of the few times I genuinely believe Hero's not capable. Ancient Gear is Yugi Boomer for sure. No. Ancient Gear goes second in a Ancient Gear blinds second in a best of one format, where having the ability to play something niche that no one is prepared for does get you a shit ton of wins. Yes, if this were game 2 and 3 format, this would be terrible, no good, very bad, never play it. That's not what this is. You play one game, and you also have the ability to basically invalidate anything your opponent does because of like several cards that Ancient Gear has. So you do just kind of win the game. You could dome the opponent with 6k with Philly. True. Super Heavy Samurai, I'm going to actually put in Rogue for similar reasons to that of other such going first decks like Snake Eye and what have you. It is weaker. It's still weaker to like Fuwalos and what have you. So there's that, but yeah. Reads the Ancient Gear continuous spell? Yes. Can't do anything. Sword Soul is... Dude, I played against Sword Soul not too long... We played against it yesterday on stream. And it was so bad. It was laughable how bad that end board was. I don't know if my opponent could have made a better end board, but it was not. It was not good. None of these are ordered strongest to weakest except for these two. These are the only two that are ordered. Tachyon, in theory, is good. In practice, isn't. Tier Element's still very, very strong. Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's one of the best decks to use the Fiendsmith engine in particular, and it uses it in a way that allows it to still do some insane things, while also not necessarily losing to any one thing in particular, which is pretty cool. And it plays around things like Maxi, Fuwalos, etc. very well as well, which is nice. Yeah, it doesn't really lose to anything in particular. I guess it's not like great into Impulse, but it's also not terrible into Impulse, so there's that. Yeah. Orca support when? True! Tachyon if you don't droll it, or if they don't brick. Yeah. True! Yeah. Just don't lose to yourself. Thunder Dragon's not a real deck, can't hurt you. Tri-Brigade is... As much as this pains me to say, Tri-Brigade's not a real deck, it can't hurt you. I know. Everybody pour one out for Tri-Brigade. You hate to see it. Tri-Brigade has officially been power corrupt. I can't even cope anymore. It's just, it just doesn't compete. I really wish it did. It just doesn't. There's nothing in particular that it's capable of doing right now. It just, like, gets shit on by everything. It doesn't have a strong enough go first end board, even with Apo, right? Yeah, that's pretty much it. Anyway, Unchained. Unchained actually just dies to Maxi. That's, like, it. Maxi's existence just, like, kills Unchained. It's crazy. Does what support change anything? Oh, the Tri-Brigade support? No. No. The Tri-Brigade support is, like... It's Copium support. Vanquish Soul doesn't have the new support. If we get the new support, or I should say when we get the new support, it's pretty good. Voiceless Voice is not good. Actually, I'll put it in Rogue. At the very least, Voiceless Voice, like, does do stuff going first, and is pretty strong going first, but yeah. Virtual World's not real. White Forest, not real. Do I put this in Rogue? Yeah, we'll put it in Rogue. Rose Dragons aren't real. I don't know what this is. And True Draco's not real. There you go. That's what the metagame will likely look like. To be fair, I'm going to expect more Rogue decks than probably Tier 2 decks. Like, I'm not going to expect a whole lot of, like, Crystron and Snake Eye and stuff like that. Because here's the thing. Most of the time, what's going to happen is people are going to be like, hey, why not play the best deck? Or even maybe the second best deck, right? Or, why not just play a Rogue deck? So that's what I'm imagining is going to happen, right? They're going to be like, I'm going to play Stun. Or I'm going to play Kashira, which is Stun. Or I'm going to play Dynamorphia, which is Stun. Or I'm going to play Labyrinth, which is kind of Stun. Sometimes, occasionally, probably not. Or I'm going to play an FTK deck. And it's like, great. So a lot of people are going to be like, I'm not going to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Instead of playing actual Yu-Gi-Oh! And probably having a better time. Because you can play, like, additional non-engine. Yeah. VW is one good rank 9 away from being decent. No. Not anymore. Just no. It was probably prior to Pote, and then Pote came out, and that immediately went out the window because Tearlament existed, and then it just kept going up from there. Yeah, no. But yeah, that's gonna be it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you guys did indeed enjoy it, and remember to always stay frosty. Bye bye.